guys, this is Tired Goth, and you are watching the Threat Intel 102 series where I talk a bit about some of the topics that I plan on introducing in some of my literature via No Topic Publication and Press, my press company, my publication service. It's been a long time coming to deliver this book that I've been putting together. It has not been easy encapsulating the information that I have come to learn and actually understand very thoroughly about how subterfuge and sabotage and borderline social espionage projects can occur to thwart, the rightful passage of people into a place of fame, prosperity, or rightful proper judgment in the eyes of those that they're serving, which are their public, their public forum. So, without further ado, I'd like to get into the latest topic. I'm what I feel is far late into the production of this video, but I'll do my best with it. The last few videos covered interpersonal terrorism, things that had to do with the use of personal information and personal relationships to sabotage a person's odds of sailor episode will be no different. However, it will be specified under the vein of interpersonal sabotage and content theft. It's going to cover the risks of creators and people who are genuine in their intention to create good and honest content for their public getting attacked by the very people that they're in relationships with. Now, this is especially troubling because it creates an extra layer of attention to some things in the dating scene, right? If you're a younger person, let's say, anywhere from like your teens to your adulthood, as a 30 something or a 40 something, looking to create content, and you're not quite established yet, and you're in that vulnerable position where it's like every person you meet could be a potential proprietor for your business. You don't necessarily know if the romantic relationship, the business relationship, or any safety therein will blossom at any point without some serious diligence and focus. And the issue that I'd like to touch upon here is just how vulnerable you can be dating or sharing any of yourself with another person while this is happening, while you're trying to build your startup, while you're trying to create your business. This is especially true if you're possibly relating or not relating to relying on, other people's relations to your content in a crowdfunding thing. You know, it's like you yourself are the masterpiece, right? And you're looking for investors. So when you're looking for investors and you're also dating around, it's a really sensitive place emotionally and intellectually to be, because it's a constant pick and choose solution of like, do I share this or do I keep it private? Do I share this about myself or do I keep it private? What is my best option for security, privacy, but also non-alienation at the same time? You know, like me personally, I'm like your post-apocalyptic cutie. I prepare you for all of the scenarios, good, bad, and teetering on the edge of proactive into reactive, where, you're in a situation where you want to do your best and you want to have a fulfilling life, but you don't want to put your fulfilling life at risk as you're doing this. And in the age that we are, I mean, so many relied upon systems of economics, social schematics, even like marketing trends and systems are falling apart in front of us. And what do we really do with this if not pay attention to how they impact us and what we can do to fortify ourselves more independently so that things like that don't necessarily touch us so severely in the case that our reliance ends up being our downfall, right? But what do you do when the people you're trying to build with could be your saboteurs, right? What do you do in the case where you want to be in your whole self with someone and they end up what rightful to you because you came up with it? And I understand some people are like, oh, bah, intellectual property, this, there are laws protecting that. And then on the other side of it, we have the information wants to be free people, which isn't necessarily bad. I'm a fan of open source projects. I'm a fan of, free software and free exchange of information. But some things are not meant to be as free because they are so inherently valuable and are a gift that someone was given in their wisdom to submit to the world to create an income and generate a profit for themselves. There is give and take that is meant to be financially supportive. And the people who ignore that this premise is a life force and that when it is stolen, it is theft, they're not acknowledging that they're committing a spiritual crime that could also be interpreted as a physical crime, a tangible crime, because they're removing the power of someone's autonomy to create and to generate their wealth and independence away from them and displacing it into the hands of people who did not rightfully earn it in their experience. So, we're going to talk about how this relates to romantic and interpersonally, sorry, intimate relationships. So, supposing you have a family member or a significant other or even someone who's been introduced to your networking circle who sees your concepts, your ideas, your assets, and your production of these things, and they're very impressed with it, but they don't quite express it that way. They don't explain it to you that way. They don't express to you, not to trip over my my verbiage here, but they don't explain it to you that way. They handle it almost as if tactically they have to get closer to you to get to know it better to walk away with it, right? How do we handle a situation like that? By identifying it in order to protect ourselves, right? Some key pointers when you're dealing with someone who's not genuine in their intentions for your work, as someone who is immediately present to witness your work, are these, right? Some signs are if they seem in like the blind side of your eye to be utterly disgusted with the fact that you happen to know more than them, that's not good. That's not a good sign. You're dealing with someone who is waiting for you to take a day off to jump into your chair. It's horrible. You shouldn't have to deal with that kind of dishonesty on your team or in your personal relationships. Now, I understand that there are complications specifically in romantic relationships for this. You could be very attracted to the person. You could be very emotionally empathetic to the person's circumstances. You could feel in your heart of hearts that they are a person you are destined to be successful with. But if they aren't supporting your projects, and even worse, they're doing that kind of sabotage quietly, like carrying your ideas to a third party that you catch them speaking to from time to time, if you catch them emailing other people who are in the same line of work as you, and it is not to acquire a job, you might want to be very aware of this. And you might want to be very careful about what you divulge to them, because by the time you catch them, it could already be too late. You could have already shown a bit of yourself too much, right? To comfortably sit in another room with the person who did this to you again without feeling stirred, without feeling uneasy. And the reason for your unease is valid. You don't know what is leaving your table when you blink your eyes, when you turn your head, right? This is still a facet of privacy and security maintenance. And what a person who is trying to sabotage you won't tell you is that the reason they are so obsessed with being around you and making plans with you and being present for what it is you're doing, asking about your schedule, knowing the updates, knowing the intimate ins and outs, is because it's not just for them. It's to serve a purpose that doesn't include you. But you are the purpose. So for someone to cut you out of your own premise is a flawed system that is bordering crime. It's bordering crime. How does it border on crime? This person is purposely presenting themselves as someone who is engaged in an honest relationship with you in order to siphon from you and feed another corporate, personal, or investment, not otherwise specified, entity. Now, this is a problem because you, the proprietor and the source of this information, these deals, these ideas, these trades, these concepts, these inventions, whatever you are doing in your line of work, whatever you have created, this belongs to you. This is for you, right? So when someone else takes that from you, they are actually siphoning your ability to have autonomy away from you. And worse, what couples along with these things is blackmail. Okay, we're going to talk about blackmail here. We're going to talk about extortion, messy relationship breakups. We're going to talk about hidden camera information, leaked footage that comes out to further sabotage your ability to move on from the circumstance once you've identified it. This is the threat model you need to know, okay? In relationships of any kind, be they personal or business or both, there are going to be intimate details shared. And whether or not those intimate details are effective in the way that they are shared to sabotage something is also something that can be decided by effective measures to prevent it. If you happen to know the person's phone password and they're trying to sabotage you, you better get in that phone and delete that footage. I'm the one telling you to do that because what's recorded with the intention as a backup to make you feel worse about yourself for succeeding, do you or do you not deserve to succeed is my question to you in this moment of a borderline personal apocalypse, right? I'm gonna put it to you this way. If you two are comfortable enough in your dealings to share phone passwords with one another, either you can do what I would do and like dive in and be like, no, that's not getting kept by you in the case that you really don't like me. And you'll know. You'll know when to apply that. You'll know if someone truly does not like you. You may not have to say anything about it, but you'll know. If you happen to be around a person like that, do the full spy thing, whatever you need to do. Get in that phone and delete it. Delete whatever it is. Okay? And if they wonder why it's gone, ask them why they had it. Okay? But yeah, this is for the potential celebrities listening to my content. I know it's edgy. You need to protect yourself. Okay? But this is something that a person would have to do in a reactive sense to protect themselves in the case that they actually realize that they were in front of a threat. If they were amidst a threat in their own home, in their own heart, right? This is serious. This is warfare. Okay? I hate to say it this way, but this is what it is. It is warfare. You are engaging in warfare with someone who used your own heart to abuse you and the privilege of knowing you. Okay? I know it's a harsh reality. I know it's upsetting, but this is how that can be sometimes. And in order to fortify yourself in security and privacy, sometimes you have to accept that comfort is a chain. Comfort is something that binds you to something that is inherently unsafe for your prospects. Sometimes you have to get a little uncomfortable with your feelings and even the sense of isolation that you feel in being truly secure. Now, there are balances to be struck. Are you going to be afraid of every relationship you ever have? Gosh, I would hope not. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, really. But there is a sense of caution and great discernment that you want to develop in your dealings with people so that you yourself don't necessarily feel like everything you do is at risk. Now, people take risks in love every day. They take risks in love all the time. But if you are getting the sense that you have taken a risk on someone who never really cared about whether or not your success would fulfill you, you're not sitting in a good place with someone who loves you. And you need to be that person who recognizes that you love yourself enough not to settle for that, you know? Another thing that we would like to touch upon here is in a relationship, there are very personal things that are shared that are not likened in exact, I guess you could say, form or function to business relationships. There are going to be business secrets, trade secrets, and things. Then there are going to be personal relationship secrets and trades and things. There are going to be dynamics in both that need to remain separate because that separation protects one's ability to have freedom of movement. And especially if they are honest, too much honesty in either of those realms and fields could create a lot of jealousy if you're truly talented. That's the part that no one really talks about. It's the envy. It's the envy that people hold over the purported success in one realm or the other or both, where they both meet, that tends to be an issue. Because usually when people are successful, they don't look to other people's successes and compare. They mingle and say, oh, congratulations, you made it. Right? That's a truly successful person. They don't hold grudges. They don't hold an air of jealousy. They don't hold an air of competition or threatening sorts of approaches to the person's success. They kind of just witness them like, wow, this is fantastic. I'm so glad that you are one of the people who made it here, right? They congratulate you. They're supportive because a person who truly made it there on their own authentic merit is going to understand what you went through to get there. And they will have inherent, natural respect for this. This is why, if you are around someone who has not done the spiritual transformative work as well, to appreciate your endeavors and what it really took for you to get there and the constant practice and fine tuning that it requires, you are with someone who is not on your level. I'm going to be the one to hurt that person's feelings for you. They're not on your level. It doesn't mean that they won't make it there. That's not true. They could make it there tomorrow if they wanted to, if they really put in the work. But we all know that takes time, and it takes more than just one tomorrow to really get it right. But this is something to look forward to. This is something you can appreciate with them when they get there, and that is something to look forward to. But the issue is, if they're not there yet, you may not, if you're not sure that your work would help them, right? You may not want to be so open about things that are still coming to their fruition. And I say this because in relationships, part of the intimacy and part of the beauty of sharing yourself with another person is showing them private things about your life that no one else is open to knowing. It is a great sense of intimacy that is so important. It's sacred, really. This being broken in a relationship is the first horrible thing that you would be addressing in your threat model. It's a breach, literally, not only of your security, your privacy, but also your sense of self. It's a breach of your own vessel, right? Someone literally hacked your body at that point to create despair and betrayal for you. And if our bodies, in a sense, are all we have to protect ourselves until we have built something further, to then show, like, this is what my vessel made by the powers that guide me, right? Me personally, I believe in God, right? So I would say by God, by God's grace and his glory, I made this, right? Isn't that so cool? Right? But here's the thing, our bodies are guided by higher powers. They're guided by God, right? But I'll say for me, mine is guided by God, right? So if I have a concept that I want to share with someone who doesn't understand that my purpose is led by a higher power, and they think that that purpose deserves to fall in their hands, I'm dealing with someone who defies all the important parts that I came to like about myself. And they're claiming to love me, right? That's a threat. I'm going to be the one to tell you that is a threat to your livelihood because they're not on the same pages that you are. They only want to look at your notes to collect from them, and the notes that they're trading you are telling you that you're wrong about yours while they're taking yours. It's pretty important to address that. at its inception to avoid a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and a lot of devaluing that is unnecessary to occur to you and your assets. So, with that said, how do we prevent this? What are some proactive measures that we can use to protect ourselves in any and all relationships that we're trying to cultivate, tend to, and keep for a long time? Well, I guess point A would be you want to find someone who's not exactly like you. They're going to give you the criticisms and the truths that you need to hear. Perhaps some dissent is necessary. Sometimes that's okay too. You don't always have to agree with your circle, and you would be actually in a pretty bad position if your circle only ever agreed with you and didn't have any additional information to help you refine your process, right? You don't want to fully trust someone with your refinement process, but you do want to accept good advice. You do want to refine your own advisory by double checking things, taking things into consideration. There are polite ways to say, I appreciate that a lot. Let's see if it works. But sometimes that's all you have to do, right? And it's the fact that someone would offer in the first place something that worked for them to help you build that sometimes makes all the difference, right? So that's one thing you can do. Point B is, in that same breath, you don't want to rely only on recommended people. Sometimes you want to give off-roading through the weeds a chance too. Not literally, perhaps. That's kind of dangerous. But intellectually, emotionally, right? Sometimes you want to take risks and try new things that perhaps you're not familiar with to familiarize yourself with the process, to let other people know, hey, this worked, but this also didn't. So, take your chances with it if you really feel it's best or you have the resources to do that. It's a thing, right? And C, on point C, I would like to submit this as well. If your intuition, and I know some people are very spiritual, some people are less spiritual, I'm just going to say this. If you are getting the sense intuitively that something is challenging the way your peace settles into your body and you can't quite place why, you just get this like rumbling, unsettled feeling in your stomach that something is just curdling and just not quite what it's supposed to be. It feels like something hasn't settled yet. You want to pay attention to that as a warning sign, okay? You want to take note of any and all atmospheric, bodily, intuitive, and not otherwise specified, but like sensory threats that you're picking up. Because some people are more attuned to it and they can recognize it, and some people are even so good with that that they can advise you in that. That's important. You want a person who's like that on your team, but you also want to know with your own verification that they know what they're talking about. You don't want to just go by what they're saying. Your vibe, your intuition likely will match it before. Like it's bespoke in a sense when it works that way. But you're going to have people who lend you intuitive nudges that you can verify, or you can also rely on your own. If you get an intuitive nudge about something that is very important, trust it. Trust it. Question it with others. Talk about it. If you feel you're in a secure place, you can really verify information, by all means bring it up. Ask opinions subtly. You don't want to give too much away again. But the matter of preserving privacy and security is also like if you have a deck of cards split up in your hands, right? You want to reveal one card at a time. You don't want to reveal the whole hand and say, did I do good? Did I do well? Right? It kind of defeats the purpose of all people, unless you all do the same thing and it's like a practice round, right? It's a practice game. If you're all doing that, I guess, obviously everyone would have all cards on the table, but there are risks for this when you're just getting to know people. Even among people you've known your entire life, you hear stories about these scandals and things. Sometimes you want to keep just out of self-love some things to yourself and respect it when other people do that too, because they are going through the same thing that you're going through. They just want to make a choice that ends up helping everyone, right? They want to make a choice that ends up being beneficial. It's not just for the credit or the fame or anything. Like, there are some really good people out here who just want to make a difference because they know that people suffer and they don't want that to happen anymore. It really comes down to that, right? So, I mean, with respect to the proactive measures, align yourself with the things that make you feel like you're the most in touch with your most altruistic and most reasonable self. You're not Superman, but you are doing something great, right? You're you're doing what it is that you can with your resources and you're doing a great job. So, have a little empathy for yourself and realize when you give everything that you have away, you're not really respecting the fact that you holding that is the prize, is valuable to you, is your power, right? And the people who love you will tell you that. They'll remind you of that. And they'll remind you when you're pushing it a little too hard in a direction that forces you to give your power away. They want you to rest. They want you to nourish yourself. They want you to pay attention to the things that make you feel like you don't have fulfillment and to fulfill those things. It's important. But with respect to protecting yourself in nightmare relationships that divulge personal and intimate details that have nothing to do with your truest fulfillment of your ambitions, you want to remove yourself from those people's presences. You want to give them the space to realize, A, either that they need to heal and to allow them to heal, or B, that they need to find their own self. They need to find their own journey, their path. They need to align with what matters to them, to what drives them. A lot of people think like, "Oh, I'm driven. All I want is money. That's the only thing I need to do is to earn enough money." That is a temporary and interstitial goal most of the time. Once you have that money, if you don't have any friends to share it with, if you don't have any way to make contacts, connections, or share intel with people, you are just as good without that money because you're in the same emotional and intellectual place that you were. Supposing you have billions of dollars, but you really just trashed every relationship on the way up to the point that you made that money, and you want to order food to a remote island, there's no guarantee that food is going to be safe to eat because nobody likes you. I'm going to be the person to tell you the relationships you